Hi, I'm Pam and I'm here to talk about video games. Today I'm continuing on with my list of my favorite games of all time. This time I'm covering numbers 75 to 71. As it turns out, all of the games on this portion of the list are games I played on either PC or Xbox 360. First, at 75, is a beautiful and serene adventure game that combines music and weaving. Lume was developed by Lucasfilm Games and released in 1990. It's a point-and-click adventure that tells the story of Bobbin Threadbare, a young weaver whose friends and family get transformed into swans, leaving him all alone. He finds out that chaos is trying to take control of the Great Lume and unmake the world. Lume is quite different than most Lucasfilm's games of its time. Rather than use the usual 9-verb UI system, puzzles are solved using Bobbin's distaff, a tool of weavers, which he plays drafts on. Drafts are kind of like spells. You learn more notes and more drafts as you go through the game. These include things like reflection, open, or even spinning straw to gold. You go through beautiful areas and meet characters that belong to other guilds. There are blacksmiths, glassmakers, shepherds. The appearance and events in each area does a great job of showing you what these guilds are all about. The glassmakers area is especially memorable as it reminds me of the Emerald City. As you play, you'll often come across problems that you don't have the correct drafts for yet. There's one part of Lume that stands out in my memory. I came across the shepherds who tell me a dragon has been eating their lambs, and I even see one of them get taken. It wasn't until later that I was able to use my dye draft to dye a whole field of lambs green so they blended in with the grass and the dragon could no longer see them. But I was always sad about the lambs I couldn't save. Next is an open-world detective game that does a fantastic job at recreating late 1940s Los Angeles. Noire was developed by Team Bondi and released in 2011. In it, you take on the role of Cole Phelps, a young World War II veteran making his way up the ranks in the LAPD. You start as a patrol cop and then move through traffic, homicide, vice, and arson as a detective. I don't generally like open-world games that make you drive around a lot, but Team Bondi did such a great job of making a believable 1940s Los Angeles. I loved seeing all the old cars and shops, and I was constantly reminded of LA Confidential, which is one of my favorite movies. Noire does a great job of blending detective work with action scenes and some open-world exploration. The detective parts were my favorite bits and had the player looking for clues and interrogating suspects. The ability to tell when someone was lying was particularly important, and the game had some impressive facial animations. After each case, you'd get a ranking to tell you how well you did. The game does some very clever things to accommodate those who are most interested in the story and investigation parts of the game. You could pass by the driving parts of the game by telling your partner to drive, and if you failed at an action sequence 3 times, you'd get the option to skip it. Noire is definitely up there as one of my favorite detective games. Number 73 is one of the few times on this list where I'm gonna cheat a little bit. I'm going to list a whole series of games which I really think should all be played for maximum effect. However, I didn't quite want to give them 5 individual places on the list. The Blackwell games are a series of 5 point-and-click adventures developed by Wadjet Games and released between 2006 and 2012. The first game, the Blackwell Legacy, introduces us to Rosangela Blackwell. Rosa is a writer and a bit of a loner. When she's asked to write about a suicide on a college campus, she finds out that she's a medium. She can talk to ghosts and help them move on. This is where she meets Joey Malone, who becomes her ghost guide and sidekick. Over the course of the games, Rosa and Joey work together to solve murders, help a lot of ghosts move on to the other side, learn about Rosa's family history, and they often have to get out of dangerous situations themselves. The second game lets us play as Rosa's Aunt Lauren, who is also a medium and is quite great. If I had to pick my favorite of the games though, it's the final game, Blackwell Epiphany. Games, or stories in general really, don't always stick the landing, and endings can be disappointing. But Blackwell Epiphany wraps up Rosa and Joey's stories in a fantastic and satisfying way. It's a bittersweet ending, of course, but a fitting one. The fantastic writing, voice acting, and real sense of character development make the Blackwell games a series of modern adventure classics. Next is another adventure game that's part of a series, but this one also has some RPG elements. Quest for Glory 3: Wages of War was developed by Sierra and released for PC in 1992. After the events of the previous two games, the hero has traveled to the city of Tarna in the land of Fricana, which is quite an on-the-nose name. A war is about to break out, and you have to stop it. This was the first Quest for Glory game that was initially developed using the point-and-click interface, as opposed to the text parser. The graphics and audio were a big improvement over the second game, and it introduced an overworld map that let you travel between locations, and also introduced the opportunity for random encounters with both hostile and friendly characters. As with the other two games, the events you experience and how you tackle problems is very much based on the class you choose: Warrior, Magic User, Thief, and the new class, Paladin. The Warrior class is much more interesting in this game than it had been previously, and being a mage makes most people distrust you. The characters you meet this time around are great, and I especially love the Liontars, and the overall game is just a lot of fun to play. 71 is a very odd game that's made by a man who seems to really love Twin Peaks. Deadly Premonition was developed by Access Games and released in 2010. It's an open-world, survival horror, action-adventure comedy game? Honestly, there's a lot going on here. You play FBI agent Francis York Morgan, who has come to a fictional town in the Pacific Northwest to investigate the murder of an 18-year-old girl. Sound familiar? Agent Morgan is an odd duck who has conversations with an unseen character named Zach, is oddly dismissive of the locals, and often seems to visit an alternate reality that gives him clues about the cases he's working on. The gameplay in Deadly Premonition is rather janky. Combat is certainly not the game's strength, but it's good because it's just so strange and there's so much to do. Characters in the town have their own lives and schedules, meaning they don't just sit around waiting to help you out. You have to find people at the right times. You need to take care of yourself as well. You need to sleep and eat and bathe, otherwise you'll feel the adverse effects. You can go fishing and play darts, look for collectibles, and upgrade your car. I generally don't really enjoy games that throw the whole kitchen sink at you and give you too much to do outside the main storyline, but everything in Deadly Premonition is just so weird and oddly charming that I had a lot of fun finding everything the game had to offer. That's all for this episode. I hope you'll be back for the next one, which features quite an eclectic mix of games. If you missed it, check out the last episode of my Top 100 Games. Or watch my video about Quest for Glory 1 if you're interested in hearing more about the series. I've also got a Patreon if you want to support my videos. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.